I recently got a phone call from a rugby league player I used to train. Now his teenage son is also playing rugby league. Now his teenage son is wanting to hit the gym, while his dad, based on his own personal experiences having played rugby league professionally, is holding him off for as long as he can. So instead, he's getting his son doing things like bodyweight exercises and their variations. So think flutters, push-ups, chin-ups, hip extensions, box jumps, thin tummy drills, sit-ups, and so on. The young athlete's greatest needs are skill development and a more balanced approach to his physical training, which would include flexibility and speed development. The 1 to 3 hours a week that might have been spent used for traditional strength training, for short-term gain and long-term joint pain in most cases, will pay dividends down the track. But engaging in delayed gratification, especially during your teenage years, can be a challenge, but it's worth it long-term. Plus, the boost in strength and size he's going to experience over the next 5 years during puberty is going to be significant based on his family tree from what I can see. Just because kids can strength train in their early teens doesn't mean it needs to be rushed or prioritised. In my view, the Western world is currently placing too much focus on strength in terms of athlete training. Essentially, every high school has a gym and strength coach employed at it. But there's a limited balance when it comes to their training. And the outcome of poorly written and poorly executed strength training programs, which in my view is most of them, will be expressed in the posture, muscle development, and joint health of these teenagers who engage in it years down the track. Strength training is a powerful stimulus that needs to be respected, especially in developing kids. Outside the obvious fantastic gains in muscle mass, strength, bone density, the residual effects of strength training are poorly understood. And you know the saying, you don't get a second chance to make a first impression. It's the same thing with strength training. Undoing or reversing the damage of poor programming and technical execution is how I spend way too much of my time professionally these days. It wasn't like this 20 years ago or even 10 years ago. So getting it right from the start is a huge advantage. And think about it. Dentists individualise the needs of each patient based on what the patient's teeth and gums present. Car mechanics do the same thing with each customer's car. Ironically, I rarely see teenagers with individualised strength training programs based on what he or she presents with. Now, Ian King has spoken and written about this at length, so allow me to share a quick review. Athlete preparation, or training factors, what they were originally called by Tudor Bompa in his classic book, The Theory and Methodology of Training, is composed of 4 areas: physical preparation, psychological preparation, tactical preparation, and technical preparation. Now, of these 4 areas, when it comes to the physical preparation, there's 4 components of it: endurance, flexibility, speed, and strength. Now, from a balanced perspective, physical preparation is just 25% of overall athlete preparation, and strength training is just 25% of the physical preparation component. So it's basically 25% of 25%. Therefore, strength accounts for a little over 6% of athlete preparation. While the physical changes strength training creates can be significant, its actual contribution to sports performance may or may not be as significant. The contributions of flexibility, strength, speed, and endurance vary depending on the requirements of the sport. So with all this said, here are 4 practical applications to take away. Firstly, ideally everyone, teenagers included, get appropriate individualised guidance of their physical training outside of the team sport sessions. Secondly, let the kids play. There's even been a book written with that as the title. As kids mature, they'll gravitate towards one sport or maybe 2, but maintaining some exposure to at least 1 or 2 other sports for as long as possible is a goal. Thirdly, if strength training is added to the sport training week, flexibility training must be added as well if it's not already. And finally, prioritizing technique over load used. Loading is secondary to the technical execution of each rep. And this goes for bodyweight exercises too. For example, manipulating the speed of movement of each repetition can add enormous variety and progressive overload to the exercise. Don't sleep on this option. I've used varying speeds of movement with great success both professionally and personally over the years. There's an enormous difference taking 6 seconds to go up and down in a rep versus taking 2 seconds to go up and down in a rep versus having pauses at each end of a rep. But don't just take my word for it, give it a go yourself.